I'm sorry, I'm just going to try and finish up an email while we're talking. Yeah, I don't think I'm doing this very well. In fact, I'm just going to put that down for a second because multitasking is not a thing. And despite what we think, our brains and neurological science prove that we're just not capable of doing two things simultaneously at the same time well. So we think that we can be on our phones and we can be engaging and we can interact with other people whilst we're also being innovative and creative, but it's just not possible. So in this session, I am going to be challenging you to try to be in the moment, to be fully present without distraction, and to put your phones down for 15 minutes, because the benefits of doing that last not just in the moment, but have a ripple effect that create a sense of calm and a sense of awareness and also creativity and energy that will have a ripple effect into the rest of your afternoon. So your afternoon speakers can thank me later. So I'm going to start again and say, hello, I'm Fiona. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Moment Company. And at Moment Company, we're on a mission to help share the benefits of taking short, regular mind breaks throughout your working day. And these are centuries-old, proven techniques that basically help you manage your mental fitness, your resilience, and help boost creativity and energy. And what that does is not just work on your brain, but it also helps your physical health and happiness as well. And we do that through a series of workshops and products. So, why am I here today at a digital event speaking about well-being and mindfulness? And I was on the other side of this fence. So I spent 22 years in the digital advertising and media industry. And it, on the surface, appeared terribly glamorous. And this is just a screenshot of 18 months of my British Airways air miles back about 10 years ago, where I was living and working all over the world. I was working for digital and tech startups, and I just didn't have the resilience and strength myself to set any boundaries and to know when to stop and say no. And so what was masquerading as an always-on busy executive lifestyle was actually extreme physical and mental exhaustion, and I suffered from a breakdown. And that meant that I just didn't have the strength to continue, and I was forced to take some rest. And it was in that period that I became curious about what had happened to me and how I could prevent it happening again. I studied neuro-linguistic programming and retrained in that, mindfulness, Reiki, and meditation. And taking up a regular meditation practice and bringing all of those things together, I exaggerate not, changed my life, and it had long, profound, and lasting impact. And that's why at Moment Company, we want to share that experience that we had. And I just want to say that from my perspective, I was a very skeptical, very digital-brained, drunk workaholic. And if I can change that, calm it all down, and find a new perspective, then I know everybody can. Because these are skills that we all have. It's just we've forgotten over time as life takes over, just to take those beneficial moments to ourselves. So how's it going with phones down? Everybody ready to take a moment? And we will be doing a guided session towards the end of this as well, so I hope that you can all stay to do that before lunch. So this session was entitled, It's All in Your Head. And when you think about it, we learn infinitum about the external environment that we're in. The second you get into school, you learn about animals and nature and space, and you could argue that we are more alien to ourselves than aliens. We're taught very little about what goes on between our ears. And actually, we're the most fascinating creatures that walk the earth because we think, and we do it an awful lot. And the National Science Foundation has studied and shown that we think up to 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of those are the same thoughts we had yesterday, and 80% are from a negative bias. So it's like we're pre-programmed to live tomorrow the same way we did yesterday and on repeat over and over again. And why that matters and why it matters in a digital DNA conference setting, in a startup, in an innovation setting, is that we speak to ourselves more than we speak to anybody else. So the thoughts, the language that we use, the tone, and the stories over time begin to develop to be our belief systems. Why do our belief systems matter? Well, they're how we show up in the world. They're the types of products that we create. They're the types of organizations that we work for. They're the people that we hang out with. The things that we do are all shaped by our thought system, which then becomes our belief patterns. And so that's all what's going on in our head, but we don't actually have to physically interact with something in order to have an emotional connection to it. So our thought patterns can begin to create an emotional reaction in our body. So you think about anger, of which used to be my default setting, believe it or not. When I was in the digital world, very angry, frustrated. It was the energy I would walk in with me in a room. And we all know when we've been in those situations when you're like, oh God, it's that person that's a bit angry. And you know, just to leave them be for a few moments when they first walk in the room. So your thoughts and your narratives, your story and your language are creating that emotional reaction and feeling that you have within your body that then determines your actions and your behaviors. And there are ways in which, good news coming, there are ways in which we can stop them, but a lot of this is happening without us really being consciously aware. And it's happening without being consciously aware because we have those 60,000 thoughts and 95% of them being the old records that are familiar to us and we just take down off the shelf all the time. So we can be emotionally reacting in anger to something that maybe happened 20 years ago. We're just choosing to replay that story. We also may be emotionally reacting to something that hasn't ever actually happened to us. Our external environment does not have to change in order for our emotional feeling and reaction to change. So I deliberately choose records here because I love talking about the power of music. And these things always make me want to break into a Madonna song, but I'll refrain. But music, if you think about it, those lyrics are written by somebody else. But when we say over and over again, or we sing, or we are reminded of lyrics, those words can actually have an emotional reaction in our bodies. So you think about putting on a sad song and immediately you're back in that environment. So I always say, you know, Monday morning, or you're needing a bit of creativity throughout your day, turn the music up loud, whack on a happy tune, and you can immediately change your energy and your outlook for the rest of the day. So that's the good news, is that you don't have to have your external environment to change in order to change how you feel and your belief patterns. And this is really important as well when you are looking at how language and narrative impacts business. And I always use the example of a company that I worked for that remains unnamed. It's called CNN. And their HR department, their motto was more fun, great, less fear. And that logo was everywhere in the office. It was the first thing that you saw when you walked into the elevator every day. And so the word fear was immediately ingrained in everybody's minds. And then I would find myself throughout the day beginning to question, less fear? What amount of fear is okay? Am I supposed to show up with some fear? And who's going to take that less away from me? And so there was a very fear-led culture within that organization. So I like to challenge, and Alex and I, my business partner at Moment, we work with companies to really help them understand the power of language and narrative that you use when you're not just promoting your business to your potential clients, but you're also working and engaging with your teams as well. So as I said before, the good news is that you don't have to have had something physically happen to you to be able to create the change that you need within your own mindset. And creating positivity starts from your own thought process. So how do we start to untangle the web that we've created for ourselves? Well, if we go back to the 60,000 thoughts, it means that we're not really possible to talk our way out of stress. So the first thing that we need to do is really simple. We just we create some breathing space in order to stimulate our vagus nerve, to calm our nervous system, reduce our heart rate, and just create that little bit of a window or opportunity for change. And this is not some woo-woo voodoo science, although I can do a little bit of that if you want as well. This is proven physiologically happening in your body, whether you feel it or whether you don't, whether you think, that doesn't work for me, that just works for everybody else. Your body reacts. It's just the way that we're built. So know that every time you take a deep, conscious breath, you have the opportunity to create that window for change. And we breathe, it's thought, around 23,000 times a day. So we have lots of opportunity just to create a little bit of space and a little bit of well-being for ourselves at any time. So what I'd like to do now, and this is where it gets like really a little bit different from everything that you've heard before today and probably the rest of this afternoon, is I'd like to create an environment where you can just experience a little bit of headspace and a little bit of breathing space for yourself just now. And we're going to do a little guided session. And this is just to show that you can do this anywhere in just a moment. You can do it wherever you are. Being mindful doesn't mean meditation. You don't have to have your eyes closed. It just means being consciously aware of the task in hand, whatever you're doing at that time, without distraction and without judgment. And I invite you to think about how many times during the day you're truly in the zone, in the flow, where you're just focused on the task that you're doing and you're not distracted by other things around you. It's thought that even just having this on your desk is a huge distraction from your creativity and from your mental agility. And every time we pick it up, it takes 23 minutes to then get back focused in the task at hand, unless you do some of these shortcuts that I'm about to share with you right now. So if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes to do this. You don't have to. I appreciate this is a kind of strange environment to doing this. So you can just turn your eyes downwards and glance down. And even just turning your chin and your nose down slightly is enough to signal to your brain that it's time to go inwards and it's time just to relax. Because once we've created that breathing space for ourselves, the next powerful moment comes in just being aware of the thoughts that we're having. And again, as I've just said, mindfulness is not bringing any judgment or any reaction to those thoughts. It's just being aware of them. Because there is no way to stop those 60,000 that we have every day. Even the Buddhist monk that's sitting on top of the Himalayas, they still think. It's about quietening them, softening those thoughts, and just being more consciously aware of them. So, everybody up for it? I can't actually see anything, so if I'm staring at you, think I'm staring at you, I'm just talking to a blank space, so I can't see anyone at all. Hi. So yeah, if you, I invite you just wherever you're sitting right now, close your eyes if you are comfortable. I invite you just to take a breath in and breathe out. Now what we're going to imagine in our minds is that you can see a dial. And we're in a digital environment. It can be an old school analog dial. It can be a sliding scale like an equalizer, whatever a dial represents to you. And we're going to turn it to 7. So, it's a little bit of a stressful environment right here. There's noise going on outside. You might be wondering what I'm about to do to you. So it's a 7, but we're not too anxious. And what we're going to do is we're going to gradually turn that dial to a 3. So we're still aware, we're still here and present, but know that you can turn it down to a 1 if you wanted to have a little snooze for the rest of the afternoon as well. And this is something you can practice at any time yourself. So see that dial turn to a number 7. And as you next breathe in and out, I want you to move that dial down to a 6. And as you do so, get a sense of relaxation pass over your forehead, down through your jaw and your throat, where we can hold a lot of stress or anxiety. Next time you inhale and exhale, I want you to move that dial down to a 5 and feel a sense of relaxation across your body, your chest, and into your stomach. And know that there's nowhere you need to be for the next few minutes, and there's nothing you need to respond to. Just let the sense of relaxation flow down through your body. As you next inhale and exhale, you're going to turn it down another notch and feel the weight of your body on the back of your seat. Perhaps you can feel the back of your legs, down across your knees and into your feet. We're going to inhale and exhale and go down to a number 4. And just be aware of any thoughts that are coming in right now. Is there anything that you are looking to do this afternoon? Maybe something that's playing in the back of your mind, and just acknowledge that you're having that thought. But just let it go and let it pass. And finally, as you next inhale and exhale, turn that notch down to 3. And just appreciate a moment of relaxation that you've created for yourself right now. Acknowledge that the thoughts that are coming up, you're fully in control of. You're in control of that language, and you're in control of your response. Now we're going to come back up again, and we're going to gradually turn that dial back up to a 7. But that 7 is not one of stress. It's not one of anxiety. It's going to be one of energy. It's going to be one of positivity and creativity for the rest of the day. So as you next inhale and exhale, move that dial back up to a 4. Start to feel a little bit of energy coming up through your feet and through your legs. Turn that dial up to a 5. Again, acknowledging the thoughts that are coming up. Is there a word or two you can change that they used today that feels more positive and feels more suited to more positive energy? Turn that dial up another notch to 5. Feel a rising of energy through your torso. Turn it up to a 6. Start to feel a bit of movement coming back to your fingers, back to your toes. And as you turn that dial up to a 7, take a deep breath in and out. And open your eyes gently. So that was just a few moments of just really simple relaxation technique that I hope you felt something. You felt a sense of relaxation, just a chance just to soften and quieten your mind slightly. That's great. If you did feel something, we'd love you to come and join us so you can do more of that. And all I ask is that you enter into everything that we do with a sense of curiosity, because that's one of the superpowers that being more mindful really brings. If you didn't feel anything, you're like, oh, what was I supposed to feel? That's also brilliant, because it means that you can acknowledge that you didn't feel anything. But as I said before, know that it is physically making that reset, that Control-Alt-Delete in your body, and in your mind, regardless of whether you actually physically felt something, all the good stuff is still very much happening. So my last point was just to say that, oh, there we go. You have the power at any time to create your reality by changing some of the words, tones, and narrative that you use, by learning to quieten some of the thoughts that you have, and to know that you have the power to change how you show up in the world and how you manage your performance by changing your internal thoughts. You don't need your external environment to change. And if you are interested in coming along and learning more, we're doing a longer guided session tomorrow morning in Glasgow. We're also over at the Scottish Business Network stand all afternoon. I'd love for people to come and share your experiences with us, or you're interested in mindset training and meditation and mindfulness. And I kind of leave with a reflection that we all have the power to change how we feel, the opportunities and the language that we use in any moment. And then I also finally challenge you just to think about the language that you use in your day-to-day. One of the best bits of advice I got from one of my old digital media CEOs was simply to change the word but in a sentence to and. And what that does is that it reframes the conversation as you're having with the person, so you feel different in the delivery, but most importantly, the person receiving that information will respond differently as well. And that's one of the most beautiful things about learning to be appreciative and mindful of your own mind and language and narrative, is that you immediately see that reflected back in your communication style with others who cannot help but show up differently as well. I thank you very much for joining me before lunchtime. I'm sure everybody's eager to get away, but thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.